Okay, so that didn't go so well. But how did we get to this place? Well, it's a long story, so strap in for the journey as we take a tour through Mastermind's history with model rockets before we get into that launch. And if you are here just for the launch, there's a specific launch video already up since the launch. And another disclaimer is we did end up getting the level M1 certification, but here's the story.
Drag brake check good. Forward fin check good. Aft fin check good. LGS check good.
Ready for flight.
T-minus 10 seconds. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. Command engine start. 2, 1. Ignition. And liftoff.
In order to tell the story, we're going to have to jump back to nearly the beginning of launching model rockets. So back 2.5 years ago roughly, I started launching model rockets with the Quix rocket. And going through the months of the first year, you can see the progress of the scale of the rockets. Going from the early Quix rocket to the Riptide with the first C engine, and going to the Stealth a few months later with the first D engine. All the while, the scale of these rockets has been growing to the tall Dart near the end of the year. Then, with the advent of the Eagle 3 program, it was clear I wasn't done scaling up yet. After the launch of the first Eagle 3B, it was clear that more thrust would be required for the rest of the Eagle 3 rockets, which led to the interest of building high-powered rockets. In order to launch these rockets, you need to be part of a club or complete a bunch of FAA paperwork, and take a level certification in order to buy the motors required for the launches. But since I'm not 18 yet, I can't get a normal certification, and most resort to the mentor program in order to get the M1 certification, which will turn into the proper level 1 when I'm 18. This also means I can't get the level 2 certification until I'm at least 18. So after I signed up and attended my first high-powered rocket launch, I decided on my launch vehicle for my N1 certification test. I chose the Zephyr kit from Apogee Components, which is a basic level 1 certification rocket that many people use for their L1 certification attempt, giving me a good track record for certification flights, thus making it the obvious best choice for my certification as well. And building your first high-powered rocket like the Zephyr after building only model rockets, you'd, including myself, start to notice some major differences in the construction and design methods of these high-powered rockets, like for extra support from the fins being glued onto the motor mount through the body instead of just onto the body tube like I was used to, or the bulkheads attached to the motor mount made out of wood just like that of the fins, instead of white cardboard like low-powered rockets use, all in order to allow the rocket to survive pulling up to 10 Gs or more depending on the motor used. This and more, including new buttons to fit a larger launch rod and metal retainers to hold on the motor, and make the Zephyr and other high-powered rockets like it much different than what I've been accustomed to over the years. But with the construction done with plenty of time before the first high-powered launch event as a part of Tripoli, a club for launching high-powered rockets, we were ready for the certification attempt July 9th. For the launch, along with the Orbitals Mark 1, I also packed 5 other smaller rockets, which have already been launched, but we ended up running out of time for the launch, and with everything else packed, including everything I could think necessary for launching and repairing, we headed out early the morning on July 9th, set for the launch site. And as a side note, since I'm not 18, my dad also had to successfully launch his Zephyr rocket and get his certification just so I can have the chance of a certification attempt. Luckily, after his second attempt, it was finally time for my certification flight.
You're going to get your flight in the air. Going in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
After a nominal launch, it was all down to the recovery system, and with all the parts still fully intact after pulling 10 Gs during the early stages of launch, it came down to the packing of the parachute and hopefully calm winds to bring it safely down in one piece. And after an event, the parachute fully opens, and the rocket slowly glides down beyond the tree line outside the airport. But the story isn't over. In order to get the M1 certification, we need to know if the rocket is in safe working order. To get the certification, the rocket must be reloadable, repacked, and be able to be relaunched without any major repair, which means we need to find it and confirm that the rocket is fully intact, which means a journey through the tall grass and forest outside the airport to find it. After a short walk through the 100-degree heat, we discovered the Orbitals Mark 1 sitting up in a tree placed as perfectly as can be, with the Orbitals logo staring back at us through the leaves. Since it was stuck in a very high tree over a small ravine and, worst of all, wound up high in the tree with its thick orange shock cord, it would be almost impossible to get it out. And no, climbing the tree was not an option. Luckily enough, the rocket was visible enough, combined with the previous success of the parachute deployment, was enough to get the level M1 certification a day later. This was less of a demonstration of how to get your level 1 certification, but more of a demonstration of what could go wrong even if the rocket is perfectly fine and functional. After a nominal first try,